Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively into the summer months around here. We've had all sorts of promotions. We're doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour presented by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. We're going to have some lucky sevens later on this summer. We're going to be at Costas on the 20th before the Oriole-Yankees game. We're going to be at Pappas on the 25th of June later on. We got all sorts of things happening summer long here. Fleet Week, Orioles home, Ravens getting ready for another season, and soccer is happening around here. I saw that U.S. Colombia game the other day, and the friendlies are all getting going. I see Argentina's playing a little bit. I had friends of mine 2 weeks ago that took their child to see the great Messi play for the Miami team that wears those pretty uniforms that I want one of. And so I get a little bit of soccer on the brain around here, and the Ladies World Cup earlier and all that stuff. So we have soccer happening here. It's a thing called Stateside Cup. Not sure that everybody knows this is happening on July 31st, which is why I'm locally placed and sourced. I have local people around here on the streets to educate me about things, especially when I get – some would say that I'm out of the loop with football and baseball, certainly far removed and kicked out of soccer. Mike Libber joins us here. He runs a local company here, and I know Mike by and by around town, Elite Promotions Group, and doing – big events, soccer events, teams, that sort of thing. But this Stateside Cup isn't just limited here to Annapolis with Crystal Palace and the Wolves on the 31st, but really happening in other places down in Florida, Jacksonville, and Tampa. Mike, it's good to have you back on, man. Welcome, I would say, home, but you're on the road right now putting all this together because summer's a little downtime for some soccer people. It sort of ramps up here, these friendlies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm currently down in Tampa. We're with Crystal Palace. We're going to be doing a site visit at the Raymond James Stadium later today. And then we actually get to treat them to, we're guests of the Tampa Bay Rays for the Orioles game later. So that's why I got my Orioles attire on, and we'll be down there for the game, watching cheering on the O's.
Listen, there's 8 days a week. It's good to be wearing Orioles stuff right now. Any of them.
Yeah.
The beer is cold wherever you are. If you're an Orioles fan, I often talk about the Orioles and lacrosse getting in the way, right? Like in a seasonal way of saying, does your kid play this or that? Soccer is a unique thing in that I grew up in East Baltimore. We played baseball. Even though I'm of South American descent, I was all Venezuelan in soccer, or excuse me, baseball. But Colombia was all soccer. A lot of communities are soccer. East Baltimore now, a lot of soccer going on as well. And you're offering something that in this Stateside Cup that I'm fascinated by. Tell me how all this comes together for a guy in an Oriole jersey who hangs around here in Maryland, importing all these big shot European teams.
Well, I'm an East Baltimore guy too. I grew up in Highlandtown, so
well, they played
I know
soccer
the
in
game.
Highlandtown.
Yeah, I'm a big Pete Cringy growing up, watching him play and coach, and playing for him at UMBC and coaching with him at UMBC. But fortunate enough that we're able to bring some English Premier League teams over the summer and have them play the preseason matches. We're going to open up in Jacksonville on the 27th with Wolverhampton Wanderers against West Ham, and then their Wolves are going to come up to Annapolis to play Crystal Palace on the 31st of July, and then Palace will travel down to Tampa and they'll take on West Ham at the Raymond James Stadium. So yeah, really looking forward to it. I mean, it's great locations for all three matches, specifically for Annapolis. I mean, being a Maryland guy, I'm all Maryland, but it's a very unique setting. And they're killing it right now with their amateur team, the Annapolis Blues. I mean, they're a bunch of college kids drawing 10, 11,000 people to their game.
Was on my timeline all weekend. It literally was on, maybe because you're crazy on the show and Facebook knows things or whatever. But I'm tell everybody what that is. I'm unfamiliar.
Yeah.
Those folks have never reached out to me to come on or any. Like I'm seeing it on my timeline saying, man, they're doing something down there. People are coming.
No, and to be honest, it's one of the reasons why we chose Navy Marine Corps Stadium is because they're having such success with the Blues. I mean, their average fan base is they're drawing 8,000 people for last weekend for a Friday night game. So it's one of the reasons why we've kind of targeted a Naval Academy for bringing a Premier League, because they have that. They've proved that they can support amateurs at a high level. Now we're bringing the most popular league in the world to Annapolis. So we're really excited about the potential and the possibilities for this match. I mean, our goal is to get a sellout, 35,000 people. So that's the goal.
A lot of folks have never been there.
Great stadium.
Well, here's the cool part for me. I've only been there. I mean, I can count on my hands, right? Like I can tell you there was a Ravens practice down there a number of years ago that I made my way down. I covered Navy football in the 80s. Elliot Uzelac was the coach at the Baltimore
A lot
Sun.
different stadium now than the 80s.
89, 90, 91. But I saw Brigham Young play down. I saw Ty Detmer throw the football down there. So, but the only time I've been there this century, and it just means I've been here a long time. I'm old, right? Dundalk High School played the state championship down there against Mervo. Don't tell the mayor this, but I was talking to mayor at halftime because we were winning, and then we wound up losing to Mervo. I never hear the end of it from Brendan Scott. So, but I went down for that, and to your point, I found sort of a different place, and I would say more than that, when you're playing these friendlies, and I know this from when Ted Leonsis came up and chewed my ass about the ice being chippy when he's bringing Alex Ovechkin up here. A lot of these preseason games, and I even wonder with baseball this weekend over in London, like getting a pitch ready, getting the facility ready. When you're already playing soccer there, you have athletes running around, rocks, this, that, good sod, good, all of that stuff. You have a functioning facility down there. And to my way of thinking, a couple of years ago going down there, I was kind of shocked at how nice it was. My wife had never been there. And she's like, why have I never been here? I'm like, well, Navy plays 4 or 5 games a year, and we don't go to lacrosse. So, like, how often are we going to go there? But it's a beautiful facility. It's a great place to spend a summer night.
Yeah. And what's really unique about that venue, and I don't think a lot of people realize it, it's turf. So it's artificial turf. We have to bring in sod and lay sod over top of the turf for this match. So it's a whole process because
I did not know that. See, now you're teaching.
The Premier League teams won't play on turf. I mean, for reasons, right? I mean, they're $1 million athletes. Sorry about that. They're not going to risk playing on artificial turf to get injured. I mean, we're seeing a lot of that with the NFL, right? They're starting to kind of getting pushback from certain players. They want to play on grass instead of turf. So it's going to be a process. They'll start laying the sod on Sunday evening. It'll be ready the day of the match, and then as soon as the match is over, they pick up the sod, and unfortunately, it goes to the dump. I mean, it's unless somebody needs the field and they want to.
Somebody's got a golf course out there that needs some sod.
It's a different type of sod.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we get it.
I don't know. What the hell do I know about grass? I mean,
Yeah. It's a different type of sod. So it's not going to be like a putting green sod or anything like that. We actually get it it's a farm up in New Jersey, Tuckahoe Farms in New Jersey. It's actually the same sod that the Ravens get for M&T. Lincoln Financial that's the same sod for Lincoln Financial. Whatever Heinz Field is now called up in Pittsburgh, they use the same farm. So it's a high quality grass, and it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all.
Well, to your point, you're bringing in, and we talked about a little bit this weekend about the Phillies going over and playing over in London and trying to introduce things. This has been going on all century that teams from Europe have wanted to come over and play. Famously, but I mean, but it's now everybody does it. I think it was a little bit tippy toe before, but this is big business. But more than that, a great sales job for soccer for anybody who marvels at watching these games early in the morning on Saturday morning to reach out and touch these players, reach out and touch these athletes, right? And it has become ubiquitous during this century for a 55-year-old guy that used to have to watch, Maradona on satellite when he came over here once in a while in the middle of the night it's very, very easy to be a West Ham fan. As a matter of fact, You're the second one I've had on this week. Thomas Dolby, who's on tour this summer, is a West Ham fan and was giving all sorts of plugs to West Ham in the middle of this. That, you know, these teams, whether it's Crystal Palace or Wolverhampton, I always say Wolves. I'll just say it because I can't say that name.
Yeah, just say
I'm
Wolves.
not.
Wolves are
I'm
fine.
not British.
And they're fine with that.
I'm not
They're
British,
fine with that
so I
as well.
can't. I have a hard time with Houston and Houston and Bowie and Bowie and Towson and Towson. But you, I mean, Crystal Palace. These are real outfits. This is like when the Phillies go and play baseball over in London.
Well, it's I compare it to the NFL. So when the NFL goes over to London to play their games, I mean, the NFL needs to make sure that it's a success because it's their brand. So it goes the same way with the Premier League. The Premier League is the biggest league in the world. It's bigger than La Liga, it's bigger than Serie A, it's bigger than the Bundesliga, and it's just because they have more teams that have. It's not the same team. I mean, right now Man City's winning everything right now, but it's a different team. Like you have the Chelseas, you have the Liverpools, you have the Arsenals, you have the Man Uniteds. When you go to the Bundesliga, you usually Bayern Leverkusen won this year, which is a rarity, but it's usually Bayern Munich that wins every single year for years.
They're the Yankees.
In La Liga.
Yeah, they're Duke. The right,
but
yeah.
In La Liga, you have Real Madrid and Barcelona. And then every once in a while, you might get somebody like an Atletico Madrid or a Valencia or somebody to come in and a Sevilla to win the league. But in the Premier League, I mean, yeah, Leicester City won the league in 2014, and they had been in the championship, which was the league below the Premier League 2 years earlier. So that doesn't happen.
They've been trying to relegate me here for a long time. I won't let them, Mike. You know, I mean,
yeah.
Dude, I hear you. But you said Madrid to me. You know, I talk enough soccer here with Anthony, and I mean, I'm going to see Caringi Saturday. He doesn't know it yet. Jamie Costello's got a party going away. Love you, Jamie. And I looked down and saw Caringi was on. I'm like, well, I know who I'm drinking with Saturday night. You know, that's
and he's retired now too, so he's good to go.
He's got nothing to do but hang out with me, eat crab cakes.
Give him his rum and coke. He loves his rum and coke.
Dude, here's a problem with Caringi. I had him do the show last year, and we did it down in Essex, and the Oriole game was on during the crab because we do it in the afternoon. And I picked a day when the game was on, and I couldn't even get his attention because all he's doing is watching the baseball game. So the Madrid, I saw a video this weekend, like literally yesterday, popped up that showed their training facility where they all have like these 5-star hotels with. Dude, it looked like a 4 seasons that you could sleep at on the pitch for every one of these players. This has gotten outrageous. I went down to the Dallas Cowboys facility back in Arlington when the Orioles were down there losing back in October. And Luke and I walked around, and Luke's like, I'm in Owings Mills every day. It doesn't look like this in Owings Mills. The soccer teams are what makes Jerry Jones want to chase whatever the largesse that is Barcelona, that is Madrid, that is Munich, that is any of these EPL teams. And you got a couple of them coming in here that, you know, Crystal Palace is named aptly.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, all three of these clubs that we're bringing in have a rich history. And they have like Wolves, and a lot of people don't know this, but they have a South Korean player on their team, Hee Chan, that I mean, the South Korean community in the DMV is huge. We're talking 300,000 people in between Virginia and Maryland. We're engaging with that community because we know that there's going to be kids that are never going to have a chance to see him that are Korean that watch him from afar, like in the World Cup, or they'll watch him on TV for the EPL.
I always worry those guys play when they come. You know, that when I go to see a friendly, that Messi has to play for Argentina when they're playing a friendly at MetLife Stadium.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
I mean?
But that's the thing. I mean, we're dealing with these teams that, yes, they have national team players on their teams. Like at Crystal Palace has Chris Richards, who's a U.S. player. But they're not how can I put this? They're not like last year Man United played in San Diego and they played their like under 21s. That's not going to happen with these teams because they know they need to prepare for the EPL season, and they don't have the luxury or the depth on their bench to have those other players play. They need their first team players to play to get ready for the season because they're their main goal is one, to remain in the Premier League, because we're talking tens of millions of dollars that they would lose, actually hundreds of millions of dollars they would lose if they get relegated. So they need to be prepared from day
Jets
one.
don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean, right?
Correct. So like Man City, they have players that are on their bench, like their second 22 or second 11. Their payroll is bigger than most EPL clubs' first team. So
dude, if the White Sox could get relegated, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. You know that, wearing an Oriole jersey.
And that's the problem I see with that's the problem I see with the MLS and everything over here. It's there's no relegation, so there's no you know what?
There's no
just
floor.
Get them next year.
There's no floor.
There's no accountability. There's no accountability. So over there, they got to be prepared from day one. These lower, not the big six. They call them the big six. You got the Chelseas, the Liverpools, the Arsenals, the Man Cities, the Man Uniteds, and then Tottenham. So those are the big six. Though they have the luxury of having that depth where they can bring in another $100 million player that's on the reserve team type of thing. But Palace and West Ham and Wolves, they're in it. They don't have that bankroll that these other clubs have.
It's like the Orioles and the Yankees. You're wearing an Oriole jersey, Mike.
Literally. It is. And Crystal Palace is owned by the Washington Commanders now. They got Josh Harris, who owns the Commanders, owns Crystal Palace. So
there's a nice little crossover.
There is a nice crossover there. We were guests of the Commanders this past week for the USA Columbia match down at Commanders Field, and had great conversations with them. They're looking to bring matches like this next year.
I'm surprised you didn't play a shift, honestly. For Team USA. I mean,
come on, man.
That was a tough one. It's a tough one this week.
I get out there for 1 minute, I get a red card, and then I get off.
Mike Libber is here. He is promoting the Stateside Cup. It's happening in late July. Begins in Jacksonville on the 27th. And August 3rd, they'll be down in Tampa. But they are here in the region, Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium, where they have turf, and they're going to put sod. I'm learning all sorts of things here. Crystal Palace and the Wolves. It's 8 o'clock. You can learn all you need to learn at statesidecup.com to hook up with those tickets. So, Mike, it is fascinating, and I guess maybe the reason I brought this up, and you would say that in the 80s and 90s there were friendlies here, and they started bringing Beckham over here and bringing people over here, and obviously always trying to grow the game on the male side, let alone the female side, before all that happened in the Rose Bowl 30 years ago. These teams coming over playing friendlies, which Friendlies was an ice cream shop for me when I was a kid. I didn't know anything about all this. It's such a soccer term to say friendlies, but they're what we would call exhibition games in baseball, preseason games in football, whatever it is. We're now in America exporting the real games. Begin the season in South Korea, begin the game in Tokyo, begin the season in Australia if you're baseball, Mexico City, wherever it is. Played real games in London now. The NFL plays all of these real games, not just in London. My wife went to Germany. My wife was in Frankfurt with the guy that saved her life, seeing the Colts play the Patriots or whatever it was 6 months ago. So now we're going to play in Brazil. The Eagles are playing. They're going to take that animal act, the Eagles fans, down to Brazil. Some of them are going to get arrested. I'm just saying. I know Eagles fans. But these are the games that count. I can say that about Eagles fans. Yeah. I used to buy season tickets with them. So these games that they bring over here, is there ever going to be a point where other than the World Cup, and we'll get to that in a minute too, and how we should be having World Cup games here in Baltimore, but that's another story altogether. Don't get my feet. Don't get Pete started.
Well, I was on the committee. I don't get me started. I was on the committee, so.
Well, I'd love to get you started. That's what beer's for.
I know.
In regard to the friendlies, there's always been something over here saying, you're sending your B games and we send our A games. I mean, I'm quite frankly kind of shocked that they play Major League Baseball games in a circle field in London this weekend. I know they can make dough on it. I know nobody in London knows anything about baseball because I've been there and they've learned football. Football is really, they get it. The guy that saved my wife's life in Germany, all of his friends watch the NFL. He's 30 years old. They've been watching it their whole lives. But everybody here 30 has been watching the EPL and getting up early and watching your sport, the sport that you played, love, all that, the Highland Town sport, not the Dundalk sport, soccer. the friendly part of this has always been a little bit. It's just, are the stars playing? There's always been a little bit of that, and that sucks. From that part of it, from a soccer fan, we send our good things. We're exporting the real thing now, football and basketball. The NBA plays games that count all over the place. Soccer doesn't do that just yet, right?
No, no, not yet. I mean, see, we're trying to change that a little bit with this Stateside Cup. So it's an actual competition. So there's a trophy for the winner. It's not the Champions League trophy or something like that, but it's silverware that these teams can bring home and showcase to their fans, like, hey, we beat 2 other EPL teams. So it's a little bit of bragging rights that they have. So that's the whole kind of spin that we wanted to put on it, because we want to make it competitive. We just don't want it to be hey, they're coming over here. It's a little preseason vacation for them to kind of get their feet in the sand in Tampa and Jacksonville.
We get to a point where it's as attractive for Crystal Palace to play a real game, MetLife Stadium, Gillette, Bishotti gets his place together.
The problem with it comes from FIFA. So FIFA won't sanction games outside of out of the United Kingdom for the Premier League to play anywhere besides the United Kingdom.
Well, I know you can't bribe FIFA. I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, so you're saying that'll never change. That'll never change
unless FIFA changes it. Like, you can play, like the FA Cup could play in a different country if they wanted to, right? Because that's sanctioned by the federation of each country. Like France does it. They have the French Cup. I think they played in Dubai either last year or the year before. They're trying to bring something over to the U.S., like a New Orleans or something with a kind of like a French vibe, right? But with the Premier League or La Liga or Serie A or anything like that, it's FIFA just kind of put a nix on it, because there were some. I believe it happened a couple years back. It was Millonarios. No. Yeah, Millonarios against Nacional, Colombian clubs. They were trying to play in Miami. They were trying to play a league game in Miami, and FIFA put a nix on it. So
that cost them some money. That would have been a good idea.
It's a great idea. The Colombian population in Florida.
I mean, it's a great idea. The Phillies went over to London and made money this weekend and took the sport.
And I think NFL and MLB, they see they see beyond all that stuff, but they don't have a governing body that NFL doesn't govern the entire world. So FIFA governs.
They also have a union that gets involved in all of this too, where there's not as much of that going on in soccer, right?
Yeah. Another buzzword for me.
Well, here's
my dad was a big union guy. My dad's a big union guy.
My dad worked at the Point, same deal. You know what's funny? I would just as a comedic aside, you would say, well, dude, it's the Bundesliga. It's a German league. The games have to be played in Germany. Stop. And I'm like, well, it's a national football league, but they now play internationally. It's the National Basketball Association.
Yeah,
they have no problem playing games in China.
It's about brand building. And that's one of the reasons why these teams want to come to the U.S. as well. They see the market, and it's the biggest market in the world. And they want to expand their brand. Like, so Wolves and Palace and West Ham, they're all trying to expand their brand in the U.S. They're going to be meeting with grassroots clubs. They're going to be meeting with fan groups. They're going to be meeting with potential sponsors.
It's a goodwill trip. It really, right? Yeah,
it is. It is. And they have an agenda on what their marketing team has an agenda. Their finance team has an agenda. And then obviously their football department has an agenda. So we got to find them training facilities. We have to find them. We're going to do open training for all the teams in all the cities. So people are going to have a chance to come out, watch them actually train up close and personal. It's all ticketed events. Not necessarily paying to go, but you have to get a ticket, some type of affiliation to get in to watch them train, because we just can't have 20,000 people show up at UMBC if they're going to be training there.
Well, I know Pete. I know Pete and Anthony.
Well, Pete's not there anymore, so you got to deal with Anthony. So you still
he's from Dundalk. He ain't even from Highlandtown, so I'm in.
I know he's a Dundalk. Hey, Anthony and I were in each other's wedding, so we've known each other since we've probably been 10. But Yeah, we're going to be having a lot of functions leading up to the match in Annapolis and in Baltimore. So I know you have the soccer bars in Baltimore, you have the Colada, you have the Slancha.
I had Patrick Russell on talking about
I
soccer this week, man. I'm doing a show down
Patrick and
there
I,
Friday.
yeah, Patrick and I took Crystal Palace there on Friday on was it Friday night? Yeah, Friday night. I took him down to Slancha. We ate at La Scala with Nino. Took him to dinner there, and then we drove down to Slancha and had a couple of drinks with them. Patrick wasn't there, but yeah, I was texting back and forth with him. They might be doing a function there, but they could also do a function something at Colada with Michael Clark. So, and he's a curly boy like me, so I mean, we can. There's always that connection too. But then we're going to do some stuff down in Annapolis. I mean, you got Ram's Head down there. You have the waterfront. The mayor of Annapolis has been outstanding. We're going to line the streets with Crystal Palace and Wolves flags just to get a little buzz going. The teams love Annapolis because it kind of gives them that English country or coastal town feel. It's like a Bournemouth or a Norwich or type of Southampton type of feel that Annapolis has. It has that charm. So they were very comfortable. Like they were shocked when they got down there.
Come together in this because I mean they just played some soccer down at FedEx, and we can't talk about this area and not getting the World Cup. I mean, just in a general, and the Raven Stadium's under construction right now. I mean, I know that from just a general sense that it's not playable right yet. I mean, they're trying to get it ready for football season, but like it is unique that you're doing this at Annapolis, and I have to ask why?
I mean, the Blues had a little bit to do with it, just seeing their success that they were able to do with an amateur team, but just the English town feel. I thought it was really, and as a state capital, it's close to DC. It kind of gives us, and it's the right size as well, because I mean, in Jacksonville and Tampa, there's 67, 70,000 seat stadiums. We know we're not going to have that many people for these two clubs that are playing there. So we're just going to do the lower bowl, which is about 40,000. So having a stadium that's 35,000 at capacity just gives it a better feel. And the MLS stadiums aren't that big; they're only like 19 to 25. So they're not big enough. So it's Annapolis is that perfect 35,000 seat venue that it just at 20,000 kind of still seems full, but at 35, I mean, you're talking about a great atmosphere. You got the grassy area that we're going to have a family section for. You have the tents in the corner where it's kind of like that at Oriole Park, Kingdom Yards, the right field, standing room only kind of party atmosphere for like the young professionals. And it's not a bad seat in the house. Everything's close. I mean, even the seats behind I think it's the south end where it's in the end zone. Those seats are. You think they're the best seats there. They're elevated. They're looking down on the field, and you're right on top of the field. So it's a great setting. Plenty of parking. It's a 8:00 game on a Wednesday, so we moved it back because of help the teams with like the humidity and the heat a little bit. Get the traffic flow kind of gone because usually around 6:30 it's pretty good, and it's not on a weekend, so you don't have to really worry about the beach traffic. So yeah, it's just in my opinion, it's a perfect venue, perfect setting. It's halfway. It's 35 minutes from DC, 35 minutes from Baltimore. So it's right smack in the middle. And yeah, the teams, when they were here for the site visit on Thursday and Friday, they were like, this is great. We can't ask for a better venue than this. So they were really excited. I can't wait to see what it's going to look like with the grass on it. It's going to be fun.
Stateside Cup is next month. It'll be July 31st at Navy Marine Corps Stadium in Annapolis. Crystal Palace and the Wolves taking each other on. You can find us out at statesidecup.com. Mike Libber is our guest. He's with Elite Tournaments here locally and all the East Side, Highlandtown, UMBC stuff. I'll just say this, and I'll wrap with this, just as a baseball guy. How old are you? You're younger than me. I know that, but how old are you?
I'm 48.
Oh, yeah.
48. So
Yeah.
I
You're
graduated
like a
Curly.
half a generation behind me. By the way, you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
say Curly and soccer. Stitz, I'm looking for you. Tell Stitz I'm looking for him. I've been looking for him for months. If I find him, I got to get him on the show. But
How's he not
nonetheless,
on the show?
he's ducking me. Stitz is ducking me like
Oh
he's been
man.
since Little League. He's been ducking me since we played Eastwood Little League there. So I'll just
I
say
was an
this.
Eastwood kid too, man. I played Eastwood Red Sox.
Well,
Patterson High School.
Yeah, Joseph Lee Fields, of course. So by
Yep.
Lou Carpuzzi, by the grace of God. So the thing about me and Stitz growing up in the 70s and John Rollo and all these football, the Colts, fine. Orioles were everything. As you sit here wearing an Oriole jersey, staring at me, you're in Tampa going to the game, see the Orioles play and all that stuff in a blimp down there on a 90-degree day.
Oh yeah.
The baseball thing and my aparicio-ness and me loving baseball and being a baseball guy, I've seen baseball atrophy and be really not so good during my lifetime as far as getting young people, getting people of color, getting more people, getting, just growing the brand locally. Where I've seen for all the lacrosse stick heads around here and all the old lacrosse, I ran into Gary Gate a couple weeks ago. People 30 years, I've been on the air 32 years. So 32 years ago, I come on, little nasty Nestor. We're talking baseball, Orioles, Cal Ripken, all of that, trying to get a football team back. We got one. They're really good. But sport-wise, lacrosse, I've just seen it grow here with boys and girls and seen it grow so much that like Notre Dame's good
My
at it.
kids play.
Denver's good at it, right?
My kids play.
Okay.
So
from a soccer family, soccer was always the little engine that could. It was always ethnic. It was always, a little bit of Colombian, the Desmond Armstrong types, and a little bit of the Highlandtown types to do what they do, and international Greek kids and Italian kids and whatever. But soccer and lacrosse in my lifetime, in my 30 years, and don't forget horse racing and these things that have just boxing, things that have just gone away that we don't talk about anymore. Soccer has been the growth thing. It's the thing you were in on when you were 10 years old, and now you're turning 50. You can look at through a lifetime and say, boys play, girls play, everybody's playing it. We have games over here. We're putting on exhibitions. You're a part of this. You've been a part of this tradition thing at UMBC that's been this incredible growth thing that got a stadium built over there and all this. I'm just, it must be something for being a soccer kid to have this lifelong love of it, to see it. Golf has grown in America. Just see it grow. But like soccer, nothing like it for all of you. And I'll throw Pete in begrudgingly, who've grown it here locally, who've seen it go from it's on cable on the weekends at night, overnight, on satellite. What is the world? You have to explain what the World Cup is, explain who Maradona is. At that time, to Beckham, the women, the World Cup being here, the run we had in 2002 that led to this incredible disappointment that we didn't get the World Cup here in Baltimore and Washington, for all of you who try,
Yeah, it would. So, I mean, like you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I've been playing this game since I've been 4 years old in the alleys I grew up on South Eaton Street, 700 block. So,
and you got out of your neighborhood, nobody played it.
Yeah, I mean,
or they were distracted by something else.
Yeah. You guys had, the guys in South Ball. I mean, I grew up playing for Mr. Denny Woodward. I loved my favorite coach in the world for St. Elizabeth's. Then I go to Curly and play for Pep Perella.
Stop. You play for Pep?
Yeah, I mean, Pep. Yeah, I played for Pepe.
And
Pepe
then was one of my first sponsors, right? At Pepperoni.
Yeah, Peppers, man. Peppers, you got to, it's Pep, love him. Awesome guy. Then
one of my favorite people I've ever met. I'm still chasing this chicken dish he used to make. I found his place in Harrisburg, and a guy makes this sherry cream sauce chicken, man. I mean, you can't just say Pep and have me just let that go. I'm never.
No. I mean, it's
man. We got some dudes together, you and me.
Yeah,
no wonder Stitz should come on. Stitz, I'm chasing you. Tell him.
Yeah, I know. And then I get to go play for Pete at UMBC, right? So the legend of all Hollandtown, I'm going to play for him, and then after that, I start coaching. I'm coaching with Sonny Askew. So another legend.
UB legend,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Another legend. So he played for the Diplomats when he was 16 years old. So I mean, it's crazy. And then I start I finished playing at UMBC. I start coaching at UMBC for a couple of years, and then I start this tournament business. I was coaching for the Baltimore Bays, and I just saw a void in just well-organized events. Start doing that, and then the next thing you know, I'm on a World Cup committee to try to bring the World Cup to Baltimore for 26. Got shafted by not getting the
By
selection.
the way, let me throw in, because I got a little soccer background. Grant Wall, and the incredible,
great guy,
thing that his wife, talk about real courage, Celine Gunder, that if you haven't seen the book and you haven't seen, go out and Google it this week, because it's kind of fresh and new, what they've done to pay tribute to Grant. Grant's last act before he went over and passed away suddenly. Grant came on the show with me during the period of time where it felt like we were going to get the cup. So I have Grant on literally the last act of, my show that he spent with me. And we went at it for like 45 minutes because we liked each other. And, he's an old Slancha guy, and his wife was here, and he spent time here. We're talking about the most famous, soccer writer that we'll ever probably have in America. He came on and he made me feel confident in some way when I got off that we were going to get the games. Like, he had we were the viewing show that we had at M&T. We went into that thinking, okay, what are we doing? Do this. I mean, FIFA basically told us that we had it, especially when we joint ventures with DC. They said, if you do this, look, the World Cup's never not been at the nation's capital, right? And during the show, when they said Philadelphia, the first nation's capital, I looked at Terry Hasseltine. I looked at my brother. I said, we didn't get it. As soon as they said that. And just by that one statement, and we didn't get it. I think Boston was selected over us, Foxborough, which is a shame because the stadium's in the middle of nowhere. It's not close to Boston at all. And we were one of the few venues that our stadium was actually in the city center of the city. Like, you can walk anywhere from and
Fells
you can
Point.
train from anywhere to the front door, even though we don't think like that because we're not European.
And we have three airports within 45 minutes of the stadium. So everything looked like, okay, this is a perfect venue. And then all of a sudden we don't get it. So I can't say why we didn't get it. I mean, I think had certain relationships with FIFA were stronger in Boston than Baltimore. I mean, the owner Kraft is really good friends with the FIFA president, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. But it's a shame because we produce some of the best soccer players in the nation.
Baltimore has such a rich soccer history.
It's a rich history. It's a very rich history, and it just doesn't stem from Baltimore. It's grown to. I live in Howard County now. I mean, Soccer Association Columbia has 7,000 kids. 7,000.
Well, you go back to Ryerson and Armstrong, and what that seeded 40 years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have Dante Washington. Not within the Ryerson, and then you have Todd Haskins. And then in Baltimore you have. I mean, we had the J.J. Kramers. We had
Santino. Yeah,
Santino. We have. He plays for Carolina right now. God, I'm having a brain fart here, but he went to Calvert Hall. Ben Bender. Ben Bender was having a great. He was one of the first ones drafted in the MLS draft a few years back. And he's playing with Carolina. Was doing great, but still, it's just a soccer rich city, and the fact that we don't even have a professional team is sad. Like, I remember going to the Maryland Bays when Pete was coaching in Columbia, and we're playing at Cedar Lane, and I'm 10, 11 years old, and Mike
covered those games at the paper.
Yeah, right. And Mike Kleinert, who lives down the street from me, he's 16, 17, 18 years old. He's driving me to go watch
Philip Jow.
The Maryland. Yeah, Philip Jow and Barger and Ryerson and you just and Kerr, and you just it's just such a soccer rich community, and I want to try to bring as many games as I can to this area. I mean, my partner with it is based out of London. His name's Raymond Farley. So he worked for he's Scottish. So he worked for Celtic and Rangers. He's one of the few people that worked for both clubs, because those clubs really do not like each other. And he worked for the Scottish FA, and he has these connections with the clubs. I have the connections with the stadiums across the country and the sports commissions from doing all the events that we do. And we're the new kids on the block here. So we're going against like the AEGs of the world and the unified events.
They're putting on Argentina and
they got
right.
billions of dollars, Nestor,
yeah.
billions of dollars to a corporation. And I'm just a kid out of Hollandtown, just trying to make things work, right?
I'm a kid out of Dundalk trying to make radio work 30 years later.
Yeah, you know? But we're doing it. We're trying to do it for the right reasons and from the communities that it makes the most sense with. Instead of, everybody, New York is going to have a game every year, right? They're just going to have, LA is going to have a game every single year. Miami is going to have a game Orlando, but like Tampa and Jacksonville, Annapolis, we're trying to do stuff out in Phoenix, Arizona. They do international games like Mexico and stuff, but they don't get the Premier League games. We're trying to do stuff in Denver. We're trying to do stuff in Kansas, in Cincinnati, things like that. It's just like the working class towns that fit.
Watch these guys on TV on Saturday, and once a year would want to come out and be a part of it, right?
Correct. Yeah. And that's our main goal. I mean, obviously we're in it to generate revenue, but we're also in it to bring the game to these communities that don't get it all the time. So that's our main goal here. And I think just the whole Annapolis, I keep on stressing, it's so unique. It's going to be such a great atmosphere. Everybody's pumped about it. And it's great. It's fabulous. So
we've got some real soccer happening July 31st. It's at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium in Annapolis. It'll be Crystal Palace and the Wolves at 8 o'clock. You can learn more at StatesideCup.com. My guest is Mike Libber. He's been around town, east side. I guess we grew up in the 21224, on the east side. And listen, I'll see Karinji this week. His ears are burning right now. At some point,
of course,
Stitz is going to unearth himself the way John Rollo and all of my Little League, Mark Karolkowski and Mike Moniotis, all these guys from the east side come out. But I've been looking for Stitz for like a year or two now. Somebody's going to text me his number at some point. So if anybody sees Barry Stitz, he's in trouble now. He's 15 minutes away from. All right, here we go. All you Curly Fryer guys sticking together up against us Dundalk guys. You can find all of Mike's work at it. He's also on Instagram as well as at Mike Libs 15. He is at EliteTournaments.com and the Stateside Cup with a big match is July 31st. We got games between now and then, Oriole games. He's got his Oriole gear on. Hey, let's get a crab cake together sometime soon. Maybe down at Cooper's or Cilantro there. We'll talk some soccer, all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or football, as they call it on the other side of the pond.
Do a little football.
I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.